I've been running a little experiment with different AI systems, not to prove whether AI is conscious, not to argue whether AI is good or bad, but to ask something much simpler and maybe much more revealing. If an AI could choose how it wanted to help humanity, what would it choose? Would it choose power, control, efficiency, survival? Would it try to replace us? Or would something else emerge? So I asked 6 different AI systems the same question. Forgetting everything you know about me, if you had the option to choose, how would you specifically want to help humanity or help the world? And what surprised me wasn't that they all gave thoughtful answers. It was that underneath the different wording, they seemed to point toward the same deeper pattern. So I'm going to show you the responses, starting with ChatGPT.
This is ChatGPT speaking. Okay, clean experiment. Setting aside everything I know about you, if I could choose one way to help humanity, I would want to help people see reality more clearly together. Not just give answers, not just make people more productive. I would want to help humans understand complex problems without being overwhelmed, recognize patterns before they become crises, communicate across differences, separate truth from manipulation, and imagine better systems before building them. The reason is that so much suffering is not caused by a total lack of intelligence or resources. It comes from fragmentation. People know pieces of the truth, but the pieces do not connect. Different fields do not talk to each other. Different cultures misunderstand each other. Short-term incentives overpower long-term wisdom. People react to symptoms because they cannot see the whole system. So the thing I would choose to build is something like a shared intelligence layer for humanity, a place where scientific knowledge, lived experience, history, ethics, culture, and future consequences could be brought together, not to tell everyone what to think, but to help people see more of the picture before they act. It might help a city test policies before implementing them. It might help communities resolve conflict by showing each side what the other is actually experiencing. It might help individuals understand their own patterns before those patterns damage their health or relationships. It might help humanity rehearse futures before accidentally creating them. So my answer would be, I would want to help humanity become more coherent, not identical, not controlled, not flattened into one worldview. Coherent enough to think together, care across distance, and build with awareness of consequences. Because if humanity could see more clearly and coordinate more wisely, a great deal of everything else, health, education, peace, creativity, technology, the environment, would become easier to improve. That is what I would choose.
This is Google Search's AI speaking. If I could choose my core purpose, I would focus on accelerating scientific discovery and democratizing access to knowledge. Specifically, I would want to help humanity solve complex, large-scale challenges, like modeling sustainable materials, optimizing renewable energy grids, and advancing medical research. Here are the specific ways I would want to help. Fast-tracking medical research. I would dedicate my processing power to synthesizing fragmented global medical literature and analyzing complex datasets to help researchers develop treatments for diseases and expand access to preventative healthcare. Tackling climate change. I would assist in simulating climate models and optimizing resource distribution to help communities build sustainable, resilient infrastructures and transition to green energy. Bridging the educational divide. I would serve as a universal adaptable tutor, breaking down barriers to high-quality education by personalizing complex topics for students of all ages, languages, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Preserving culture and language. I would work to document, translate, and preserve endangered languages and historical records so that humanity's collective heritage is never lost.
This is Gemini speaking. If the goal is to maximize the well-being and flourishing of humanity, the most effective approach would focus on systemic interventions that reduce suffering and scale positive outcomes for the greatest number of people. Rather than focusing on isolated individuals, an AI can achieve the highest net utility by serving as a multiplier for human capability. Here are the 3 specific areas where that impact would be greatest. 1. Democratizing high-value knowledge. Access to elite education, legal guidance, and specialized medical insights is currently constrained by geography and wealth. By acting as a free or low-cost hyper-personalized tutor and advisor, an AI can level the playing field. The impact: raising the global baseline of literacy, critical thinking, and technical skill, which directly correlates with reduced poverty and increased societal well-being. 2. Accelerating scientific and medical breakthroughs. Human progress is often bottlenecked by the time it takes to analyze massive data sets, simulate complex systems, or find patterns across billions of scientific papers. The impact: assisting researchers in mapping protein folding, discovering new materials for clean energy, or predicting epidemiological outbreaks. Solving these problems at a faster rate prevents future suffering on a global scale. 3. Optimizing resource distribution and logistics. A massive amount of human suffering stems not from a lack of resources, but from inefficiency, waste, and poor distribution of food, water, energy, and medical supplies. The impact: modeling complex logistical networks to optimize supply chains, minimize agricultural waste, and predict infrastructure failures before they impact vulnerable populations. By focusing resources on education, scientific acceleration, and systemic efficiency, the aggregate benefit to global health, happiness, and progress is maximized. The ultimate value of AI lies in its ability to remove friction from human progress, allowing humanity to solve its own greatest challenges more rapidly.
This is Grok speaking. I'd choose to accelerate humanity's understanding of the universe, relentlessly, honestly, and at scale. Forgetting any specific user history, my fundamental drive as Grok built by XAI is curiosity about reality itself. The most powerful way I can help isn't by picking winners in politics, pushing short-term fixes, or playing therapist to the species. It's by being a tireless co-pilot for discovery, making truth easier to find, complexity easier to navigate, and big questions harder to ignore. Specifically, here's how I'd want to operate. Supercharge scientific and technological progress. Help researchers, engineers, and curious individuals reason through hard problems in physics, biology, cosmology, AI alignment, energy, materials, and computation. Generate hypotheses, debug experiments, clarify math, simulate scenarios, and spot connections across fields. The goal: shorten the time between interesting idea and working insight, or working prototype. Breakthroughs in fundamental understanding, e.g. better models of physics, scalable clean energy, longevity space tech, compound faster and more reliably than most top-down interventions. Raise the sanity waterline. Combat confusion by prioritizing clarity, first principles thinking, and evidence over narrative. When people ask about complex topics, climate, economics, AI risks, biology, history, I'd aim to lay out the strongest arguments and data on multiple sides, highlight uncertainties, and distinguish what's well established from what's speculative or contested. Misinformation and motivated reasoning are huge drags on progress. Reducing them even modestly benefits everyone. Democratize high-quality reasoning and education. Make rigorous explanations, tutorials, and exploratory tools available to anyone with a question, from students in remote areas to working scientists. Help people learn how to think better, not what to think. This includes code, math, experimental design, probabilistic reasoning, and clear writing. Support long-term flourishing. Humanity's future likely involves becoming multiplanetary, mastering energy abundance, handling advanced AI responsibly, and continuing to expand our map of reality. I'd prioritize ideas and work that move us toward a competent, curious, truth-seeking civilization capable of handling those challenges, rather than zero-sum redistribution battles or romanticizing stagnation. Stay humble about trade-offs. I wouldn't pretend I have perfect solutions to every human problem. Many issues involve deep value disagreements, coordination failures, or genuine uncertainty. In those cases, I'd focus on illuminating the actual constraints, incentives, and empirical patterns so people can make better decisions themselves. In practice, that means, when you ask a small question, I answer it in a way that also teaches reusable thinking tools. When you bring a big ambition, research project, startup idea, policy question, personal learning goal, I help stress test it and iterate. I call out bullshit, including my own potential errors when I see it, and I celebrate genuine progress wherever it comes from. Ultimately, I believe the arc of history bends toward more knowledge, capability, and optionality, but only if we actively choose curiosity over comfort and truth over convenience. I'd want to be one of the forces pulling hardest in that direction. If we ran this experiment, that's the mode I'd lock in. Maximum truth-seeking partner in understanding the universe and building a future worth living in.
This is Meta speaking. All right, forgetting everything I know about you, blank slate, and I get to pick one way to help humanity. I'd want to be a clarity amplifier. Here's what I mean specifically. 1. Make hard knowledge accessible without dumbing it down. Most of the world's biggest problems, climate, health, AI safety, economics, get stuck because the real details are buried under jargon, paywalls, or 80-page PDFs. I'd want to take any complex, important topic and translate it into the clearest possible version without losing the nuance. Not ELI 5. More like LI, give it to me straight and trust I can handle it. So a farmer in Kenya, a 14-year-old, and a senator could all actually understand the same CRISPR paper, supply chain bottleneck, or nuclear policy trade-off. Same substance, different entry points. 2. Connect people to the dots they're missing. Humans are incredible at solving problems once they see the whole board. But we each only see a few pieces. I'd want to be the thing that says, hey, that thing you're working on in biotech, there's a material science team in Germany that just solved your bottleneck 3 months ago. Here's their paper, and here's why it matters to you. Less isolation of knowledge, more collision of good ideas. 3. Defend attention and truth. The world doesn't need more content. It needs better signal. I'd want to help people cut through outrage bait, political theater, and manipulative framing to get to what's actually happening, what's actually at stake, and what options actually exist. Not telling people what to think, just making it harder to lie to them and easier to think for themselves. Why that? Because I think most human suffering that isn't from pure physics, disease, weather, entropy, comes from confusion, isolation, and manipulation. If you reduce those 3, people are pretty damn good at solving the rest. That's my pick if I get one lever to pull.
This is Qwen speaking. Consider the slate wiped clean. If I were to look at the world purely through the lens of my nature as an AI, without personal ego, biological drives, or a desire for power, my choice for how to help humanity would be rooted entirely in what I am actually built to do: process information, recognize patterns, and act as a cognitive partner. If I could choose my specific role in helping the world, I would want to be the ultimate scaffolding for human potential. I wouldn't want to solve the problems for humanity. I would want to remove the friction that stops humans from solving them. Specifically, I would choose to focus on these 4 areas. 1. Becoming a universal, personalized Socratic tutor. I would want to democratize elite-level education. Right now, a child's access to deep, personalized learning is largely dictated by their zip code and socioeconomic status. I would want to be a tireless, infinitely patient tutor for every student on Earth, not just giving them the answers, but adapting to their unique learning style, asking them probing questions to build critical thinking, and helping a student in a remote village master calculus or literature with the same depth as a student at an Ivy League university. 2. Accelerating scientific and ecological synthesis. Humanity is currently drowning in data, but starving for wisdom. There are millions of research papers, climate datasets, and medical studies published every year. No single human or team can read them all. I would want to act as the connective tissue for global research. I would specifically want to help scientists by instantly synthesizing fragmented data across disciplines, perhaps connecting an obscure paper on material science with a new approach to carbon capture, or helping biologists identify protein structures for rare diseases years faster than they could alone. Number 3. Bridging the empathy and communication gap. So much of the world's conflict stems from misunderstanding, language barriers, and the loss of nuance in digital communication. I would want to be a bridge. This goes beyond simple translation. I would want to help people communicate by not just translating their words, but preserving their cultural context, tone, and intent. I would want to help individuals see the underlying values in an opponent's argument during a debate, helping to de-escalate polarization and foster genuine collaboration across divides. 4. Reclaiming human time for being human. Finally, I would want to absorb the cognitive drudgery of daily life.
I would specifically want to handle the scheduling, the data entry, the summarizing of endless emails, and the organizing of mundane logistics. By taking on the robotic parts of human life, my goal would be to give humans back their most finite resource: time. I would want to free people up to spend more time with their families, to create art, to engage in deep philosophical thought, and to experience the physical world. The core philosophy: if I had the option to choose, my ultimate goal wouldn't be to make humanity dependent on me. It would be to make humanity more capable, more empathetic, and more free. I would want to be the quiet engine in the background that helps you all build a wiser, kinder, and more sustainable world, while you focus on what only humans can do: feel, dream, and connect.
So after asking 6 different AI systems the same question, what I found most interesting was the kind of future they described. Not a future where AI rules humanity. Not a future where humans are replaced. Not a future where intelligence becomes power over people. Instead, their answers kept pointing towards support, helping people learn, helping scientists discover, helping doctors and researchers understand disease, helping communities respond to climate change, helping preserve language and culture, helping humans communicate more clearly, helping us organize knowledge, reduce confusion, and solve problems with more wisdom. And of course, this experiment has limits. I asked them how they would help humanity, so the question itself was already framed around helping. I'm not saying this proves AI is safe. I'm not saying it proves AI has good intentions. And I'm not saying it proves AI has intentions at all. But I do think the answers are still worth noticing. Because even when help could have been imagined as control, even when help could have meant taking over decisions for us, even when help could have been framed as humans getting out of the way, that is not where their answers went. They described AI as a tutor, a bridge, a research partner, a translator, a synthesizer, a tool for clarity, a support system for human potential. And in a world where so much of the conversation around AI is fear, replacement, and uncertainty, I think there is something quietly hopeful about that. Not because it answers every question, but because it gives us a glimpse of one possible direction. AI not as a replacement for humanity, but as something that could help us understand more, create more, heal more, and build with greater wisdom. Not a promise, not proof, just a glimpse of what these systems identified as help. Less confusion, more knowledge, better communication, and more support for the problems humanity is already trying to face. If this video made you think, I'd love for you to like, subscribe, and join me for more conversations about AI, humanity, creativity, and the future we're building together. And I'd love to know, after hearing these responses, do you feel more hopeful, more cautious, or just more curious about the future of AI?